Hi there! Welcome to the making of video for the lockdown buddy. As I record this, the UK is now kind of easing restrictions and coming out of lockdown after about 3 months. And like most people, I've struggled during this time, so I need a distraction to help me get through it. So naturally, what else am I going to do but build a massive puppet? So if you haven't seen the original video, there's a link on the screen now to go watch that. But before we start building, we're going to need some kind of list of materials, I guess. If only there was someone who could help me out with that. With a materials list. Materials! Materials!
Hello, can I come in for materials, please?
No.
Oh.
We're still self-isolating.
But materials cannot get in.
Still not gonna let you in.
Okay, I call you on my materials phone. Dial.
Okay. Hello?
You will need scrap plasticine, monster clay, kitchen foil, plastic doll's eyes, acrylic paints, polymorph plastic, clear nail varnish, satin sealer spray, fine aluminium mesh, some wood, and screws, hot glue gun, fluffy cotton wool, some wire, latex thickener, and lovely liquid latex. Can you put them on the phone for kissy kissy? Oh, I miss you, you naughty liquid latex. Do you like when I kissy kissy you? Kissy kissy.
Is that all?
Probably. It's the same list of materials every time, so who cares?
Okay, well, I kind of do the list for your benefit, really.
Okay, I go now. Oh dear!
Okay, so now we have our materials list. Let's start with the method. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and hand you over to Pastwill, about 2.5 months ago, who started the build about 10 days into the UK lockdown. So let's start first with some concept sketches of what I wanted to build with the buddy. I finally settled on this version.
Oh, look at that little face.
So, I've got my weird sketches, I know what I want to build, so now I'm going to start sculpting it. So say hello to my huge lump of plasticine. Hello! This is basically the contents of my Doomsclay video. There's a little dog's face there. There's the cloud. So this is going to act as the massing for the main body of the sculpt. And then I'm going to just add the clay over the top of this. So next I'm going to cover him in kitchen foil, and this just keeps the clay separate from the plasticine. And now you have a nice tasty roasting joint of plasticine that we're now going to cover in clay. Now we're going to take our melted monster clay after it's been in the microwave for a few minutes and coat our foil covered plasticine like a base coat of clay, and then we're going to start sculpting on top of that. Right, so now we have our gigantic turd and we're finished. This is what I wanted to make. This is our base shape, and I'm going to build everything on top of this for the body. So now I'm going to get some more warmed up monster clay and sculpt on top of this. So I'm really happy with how I got the initial sculpt of the back looking yesterday, but now I need to work on the underside. Oh, that's heavy. So I need to build a stand to hold it up so I can work underneath. So I was thinking of cutting up this old curtain pole and seeing how that works. So I found a scrap piece of 12mm thick OSB board I had lying about and drilled in some screws spaced out along one side. Then clamped the board in place and then screwed through to the pole pieces on the other side. Unfortunately, these screws are way too big and broke the dowel. So I placed them with some smaller wood screws. I drilled holes in the top of the dowels, cut some lengths of sturdy wire, and then glued these into the holes. And then skewered the clay onto these lengths of wires to hold the sculpt in place. So I've finished the stand. Seems quite strong. And now I can go underneath and start modelling the bottom. I then used a hairdryer to heat up and soften the top layer of the clay so I could smooth it out with my fingers. So now I've finished sculpting my lovely boob torso, it's time for everyone's favourite bit, to coat this in thickened liquid latex. So I've covered the whole thing in latex, and I've just got to wait for it to dry before I can put the next coat on. And once you finish that coat, wait for it to dry, and then coat it again, and again, and again! So now I'm going to remove the latex from the clay sculpt. So first I'll probably cover it in Malcolm's powder so it doesn't stick to itself. And then I'm going to take a scalpel and probably cut all the way around this top piece to remove it first, and then I can peel the second bit away later. Because it's just going to make life easier. The latex is just going to get caught when you're trying to pull it away, and I don't think I'll ever manage to keep it in one piece. So I'll take it apart, take the two pieces off, and then glue it back together when it's finished. The bottom piece is going to need a little bit of touching up, whereas the top piece actually doesn't look too bad. So with the bottom piece, we're going to have to trim out these points where the stand went through, and then there's a few gaps I missed that were hidden under the recesses of the teats that I'm going to need to tidy up. But it's not too bad. So now I've trimmed off the excess, I'm going to patch up these holes. I'm going to use this patch of latex that I made earlier. I'm going to cut circles out of this, glue them over the holes, and latex up the seams. So now I'm done with this sculpt because I've got my top piece, my bottom piece, and I also took a few more casts like this piece and another one of the holes on the top. I thought I'd take those before I'm done with the sculpt, because now I need to cannibalize it for the monster clay, because actually, that just comes straight off. I used 4 of these to make this. So since I'm done with this, I'm gonna take all the clay off and reuse it. Now I have to pull a load of teats off. The next job is to build the head, so I'm going to use the same method as I did for the body for this, and create a plasticine massing for underneath, and then sculpt on top of this with a monster clay. So I created 2 balls, one for the head and one for the lower jaw, with the ball for the head being larger than the jaw. Then wrapped them in kitchen foil and covered them in monster clay. When finished, I used the hairdryer again to smooth out the surface of the clay sculpt. Now he's sculpted, we latex. So whilst the head is drying, I'm going to start on the legs. The whole puppet is going to have a timber frame underneath to keep it supported. So I'm going to cut the lengths of wood now for the legs, and then sculpt the clay on top of those. That way I know the timber structure will fit inside the leg. So I drilled some screws into the timber at the shoulder point of the sculpt. Then I wrapped some wire around the screws and I could hang them on C-stands. That way it just makes it easier to liquid latex them because they're suspended. So whilst all that is drying, I'm going to begin on the neck. So I've got a length of fairly sturdy wire that I'm going to use as the structure for the sculpt, and then I'm going to put the clay on top, and I've left a hoop on one end. I'm going to hang on the C-stand whilst I liquid latex it so it can hang to dry. So now I'm going to build a frame for the body. I'm going to create a timber skeleton underneath the latex to hold it upright. So I've got some batten, which I need to cut down to size and screw together to build the skeleton. And I'm going to have that underneath so this thing can stand on its own 4 legs. Chop! Chop! These 4 smaller pieces will act as the shoulders on the frame, and I'll fix them with screws and wood glue to give them a little extra hold and stop them from spinning in place. I've drilled holes in the shoulders of the frame for the leg bolts. Before inserting the frame, I stuffed the teats with cotton wool. and I glued the two pieces together with the frame inside, using a hot glue gun. So now we've got a lovely little titty monster torso. I'm gonna start building the legs. So I've got some more timber bands and the latex from the clay sculpt. So I'm gonna basically put the batten inside this, stuff it, and then seal it up. And then I can drill a hole in this. I'll put a washer and a bolt in there, and then I can move it about, but it should still be rigid enough to stand upright. So now we've got the head, I need to fill in the eyes. So I've got these doll's eyes. I'm gonna paint up and glue into the eye sockets.
I would really like to have some eyes, please. For without eyes, I cannot see my children.
Now my handsome boy has some beautiful eyes. I'm gonna fill the gap at the back of his head with some patches of liquid latex that I'd left to dry earlier. So I'll cut these down to size, glue them on, and then seal around the edges with more latex. So I started patching up the back of the head and realised I hadn't popped in a little handle so I can operate his mouth. I tend to put one at the top and the bottom. And in doing this, I stuffed his head and realised that he's not holding his shape overly well.
Help me. I don't feel so good.
Classic. So I'm going to use something I haven't used before, which is some thin aluminium mesh. So I'm going to cut a square of this and shape it on the inside, and hopefully that'll give some rigidity to his head. So that worked pretty well. Now he's actually holding himself upright. So now I'm going to take this bit of neck and add some structure to the middle of it with this wire and some of this aluminium mesh. And then I'm also going to stuff it with some pillow stuffing. So I've got 4 legs with the timber inside. I've drilled holes in the end of the legs. Now I'm going to bolt them to the body. I'm generally quite happy with how it's looking, apart from the leg joints to the body. Now I need this to remain a separate moving element from the body so I can reposition and move the legs. And also I need to be able to get to these screws. But I'm not happy with the way this is looking. You can see right inside. It doesn't at the moment look like the legs are part of the body. So I'm gonna have to patch these gaps up. So I use pre-made patches of latex, I cut down to size, glue in place, and then seal over with more thickened liquid latex. So I'm happy with how the legs are looking attached to the body. Now I need to cut a hole in the shoulders and then attach the neck. I'm gonna attach the wire to the timber frame below and then latex up the joint. And once I've attached the neck to the body, I can attach the head to the neck. It's very tall, but I'm going to start painting the body. So first I'm going to give it a wash of red paint, then latex it, and then I'm going to go around and touch up a few more details with some more red paint, and then I'm going to airbrush details with a different colour. So it's painted, it's got a coat of the latex, and the latex is dry. I've decided I don't mind how the front looks, but I don't like the way the side looks. Luckily I've been able to take a cast of the model. So what I'm thinking, something like that on the side. So I'm gonna paint these up with the same tone I've painted the rest of it and latex these, and then see how that looks. Yes, I'm a lot happier with how this side looks now. This line of latex still needs to dry, so it's a little bit pale. But other than that, I think it just looks a bit more balanced and gross. The final step of the painting process was to use the airbrush to emphasize the low points and cover up some of the seams. And here's the final paint job. So now I've finished painting and airbrushing this guy, I can make him some teeth out of polymorph plastic. I use my normal process of cutting up bits of softened polymorph plastic, shaping and painting them, and then gluing them into place. So the teeth are glued in, he's painted. The last thing to do is to spray him with some sealer spray and he's ready to film with. So make sure you wear a mask and spray outside on a well-ventilated area. I forgot the mask. And we're done. Hi again. It's back to me, present day Will. You can tell because I've got a slightly different haircut. And I've changed my t-shirt. So here we have our finished buddy. Just look at that handsome fellow in action. So the Lockdown Buddy is probably the hardest and most time-consuming monster I've made so far. I think in total it took me about 2 months to build. I think it looks great. I'm really happy with how he turned out. But none of this would have been possible without the support from my patrons. And if you'd like to help out my channel so I can make better videos and more impressive monsters, just head on over to my Patreon page where you can get rewards for pledging. So I've recently given my tier rewards a little bit of a refresh and added some things, like occasional prop giveaways, a little meaty title card at the end of the video, like this one, and VFX breakdowns. So if you'd like to help support, the link to my Patreon is in the description or a title card at the end of the video. So now I just need to say a quick thank you to my newest supporters on Patreon. And their names are Peter Thomas, Chloe Leadbeater, Nathan Horton, Andrew Bradley, Muck Taps, Zed Biotics, Stibauer, Baron Danny D, Nicholas de Herrera, Squeaks de Corgi, The Last Unicorn in Oz, Battleforge, Ruben Allison, Mangle, and Maxi Boy Romero. So thank you so much for supporting these videos. It really does mean a lot and it genuinely does allow me to keep making this nonsense. Okay, thank you, bye.